Hi, welcome back, everyone, to the MACC podcast. It's Laurel Hansen, MACC's Program and Member Engagement Manager, and we're here with another episode of the Ask MACC Workforce podcast. And this is brought to you by the Metropolitan Alliance of Connected Communities. Are you interested in checking out more of our podcasts and nonprofit workforce resources? Please visit our Workforce Hub on MACC's website. As our listeners know, MACC has been strategically focused on the well-being and resilience of the human services workforce. The people who do the work of our nonprofit organizations are very important to us and to the communities that we serve. And on today's podcast episode, we're having a conversation with Lisa Negstad. Many in the nonprofit sector know Lisa. In fact, when I mentioned she was going to be on the podcast, everyone was like, oh, we know Lisa. We love Lisa. So you may know Lisa too. She's a knowledgeable and experienced trainer and has great insights that help prepare people to lead. In fact, we're doing a little session with her and MACC members soon. So we're excited to be working with Lisa as well. On this episode, we're talking about something that feels really important right now, the challenges for organizations to invest in the skill building of their people. And we're going to have a great conversation, and we're so glad that you're tuning in. So welcome, Lisa, to the MACC podcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Excited that this is my first podcast.
Oh, right on. Well, there you go. We're MACC. We've recently gotten into the podcast game too, so we'll go through this together. Lisa, I've got some questions for you, and I know I had MACC members in mind when I was thinking about what we wanted to talk about today. You know the MACC network so well. You've worked with a lot of our members. And you know firsthand the challenges that nonprofit organizations face, and with challenging work and also a really competitive, hiring market. And so we really need to make sure that we're the best place to work. And I believe we are, but let's get in and talk about it a little bit. Lisa, first I guess I've been talking about you already, but we want to get to know you a little bit more. So you have a company called Negstad Consulting, and maybe just tell us a little bit about how that came to be. And what do you specialize in? What can people reach out to you for?
Thank you. Yeah, it's just my name, my last name, Negstad Consulting. And I specialize, I'm a trainer, facilitator, advisor, and coach specializing in leadership development and organizational culture. And I kind of think of my career in two parts. The first part of my career, I worked in various leadership roles within primarily international nonprofits and refugee and immigration organizations. This also included living overseas a little bit. Spent several years in Cambodia. And then the kind of second half of my career, I got really interested in helping leaders and organizations. So leaders learning and growing and helping organizational cultures. So that's been this kind of second half of career has been my business doing that.
Oh, that's great. And I'm really excited that we're going to be working with you, and for MACC members who might be listening in, check out some of the work that we've got with Lisa. And, I think we'll be doing some future work down the road as well. So, reach out and find out more about some of the partnership that's developing between MACC and Negstad Consulting. Okay, so Lisa, we see one of the big challenges in our nonprofit sector. It's organizations having the capacity to invest in skill building for their people managers. And we know organizations are only going to be as successful as the management that they have in place for their people and making that a success. So why do you think this should become a priority at nonprofits? Like, what do you see that really elevates this to being so important for our nonprofit organizations?
Yeah, this is such a great question because I believe it's so important. We know that private sector spends a lot of resources on people leadership development because it directly affects their bottom line. And for nonprofits, we often don't always think in that way, but we think about how to make our cultures the best, right? How to make them flourishing and engaging for everybody, where we can create belonging for everybody. And so it's really key. This people leader role is really key to that. I've seen a lot throughout my career where we we know that people are great individual contributors, and then we promote them, but we don't always give them kind of that resource and support behind in this people leader role, which is so
Oh,
key.
yeah, 100%. I think you hit the nail on the head right there.
Yeah, and also, even with my trainings, I look at the power dynamic, because people leaders are working within a certain kind of structure, a hierarchical structure, and it's helpful to know where that comes from, because sometimes we can perpetuate sort of harmful systems that it comes from. But how do we actually use this? It's not like throw it all out, but how do we use it in a way that really creates the kind of organizational cultures we want and really do this role well?
Well, what a great opportunity is that. It sounds like when folks work with you, they do get that opportunity to sort of examine, right? And examine what exists and maybe be intentional about what could or should come next. You mentioned culture. Can you have a good culture without good people leaders?
That's a great question.
Do they go hand in hand? Do they exist without each other? Like, what is that all about?
Yeah, well, if you have a hierarchical structure, which is what we're talking about with people managers, then they definitely go hand in hand, because we need to be aware of like kind of the power and responsibility that comes with that role. And that's that there's a set of skills and competencies that really come with that. And then that directly affects culture because of having the kind of structure we have. So not all work gets done just through the hierarchical structure. We can all think about these ways work gets done, but really having clarity about and kind of discernment in there for people leaders about the best way to do this can really directly affect culture.
Yeah. That's a terrific sort of bridge to the next question that I have, and ties right into the work that MACC members are doing with you around these supervisory competencies. So work environments, as we know, become increasingly complex and uncertain, right? Uncertainty might be the title, for 2025, right?
Right.
What impact can someone's supervisory competence make for our workplaces?
Yeah, this is such a great question. Actually, I want to totally talk about uncertainty, but let me first talk about that supervisory competence. So many of us have heard this for a long time, this old adage that people don't quit organizations, they quit their bosses. And that right there is still true. Like looking at this means, like we need to really focus on that role. But I like looking at it with this abundance or possibility lens, where the more we work on becoming effective people managers, the more we can create that positive culture, and then everyone can be their authentic selves and learn and grow. Learning and growing is where we actually get performance in an organization. And that means allowing our people to make mistakes. It means supporting them along the way. It means, a more collaborative stance in our people manager role. Yeah, so that's kind of the first thing. Yeah.
I think, we hear a lot too about psychological safety, and you just said something that you just said is, the ability, the safety to make mistakes. And that just strikes me as maybe so important for, especially for organizations that might want to, excel in some new areas. Like you got to get there, right? You got to feel supported, and it's only going to be the people that are going to get us there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's been a lot of work on psychological safety now, and we can look at the work of Amy Edmondson and others around this. It's such important work because at the heart of it is creating belonging in our teams so people can show up as their authentic selves. So
there you go. I love that. It sounds like you're calling out a resource. So maybe when we share this podcast link with folks, we'll also have a couple of additional resources to include. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, I wanted to also mention the uncertainty piece. Is it all right if we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, let's do it.
It's something I've studied a lot. I've really looked. I actually got training from Human Systems Dynamics Institute around understanding uncertainty in our world, and the big aha I had in that was how leaders we're often taught these tools that work better in certainty than in uncertainty, like our planning tools, for example. And And so I've been thinking a lot about uncertainty and how to help leaders help their teams with it. So there's a real kind of empathy moment leaders can have for both ourselves and our team as we're living in this uncertainty. And so there's a quote. Lisa Belbin-Ferret is this neuroscientist that I quote a lot. So because she kind of makes brain science and neuroscience accessible to those who aren't neuroscientists. But she did this. She has this quote. Let me just say the quote, and then I can explain it. Uncertainty is more unpleasant in our brains, she means, than assured harm, because you can't prepare for it. I know, isn't that powerful?
Yeah, very much so. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and for those of us, and I might be raising my hand right now, who tend to catastrophize, like you can combine both of those, right? You can be uncertain and then fearing the negative consequences altogether. And isn't that enjoyable?
Right. It's so hard. Our brains are kind of work against us with that.
Yeah. I think it just honestly talking about it helps, call it out. Well, let's dig a little bit deeper into supervision. And it seems like the mix of soft skills and hard skills, there's so much to learn, but I always feel like the hard skills, right? They're like the fixed things. We can learn the policies and the practices, but it's always those people skills that really set us apart or trip us up. So what, in your opinion, are some of the more important people skills that supervisors should really pay attention to? And I think, especially when things get stressful, those might be the things that get set to the side.
Yeah, that's right. The people skills are absolutely fundamental for the people leader, because at the core, what we're talking about is building strong, healthy working relationships with each other.
Yes.
That's what really works. And it's also hard, right? So we start with ourselves and our own self-awareness. We can get caught kind of in this trance of how we've always done things, or our own habits that get in the way, our own stress management. And then we take that to how do we build a healthy relationship with those that we supervise. And that's where we, move into talking about conflict resilience, which is not my term, but I've been hearing it all over.
Yeah.
And how do we actually be able to have harder conversations? How do we actually allow our team to disagree? Because really, if we think about the heart of a healthy relationship, it has those pieces of us each working on our own self-awareness, but also being willing to work on those crunchy points we have.
That's really interesting, because I'm not sure if you were to say to somebody, let's talk about your supervisory skills, I don't think they would start by pointing the finger inward and saying, oh, I'm really self-aware, or I've spent time developing self-awareness. I think they immediately start on, well, how am I going to do this job? What am I going to do for these people?
Yeah, exactly. But then what I'll do is point to the system we're in, which is at the heart, we're in this hierarchical system, which has a power dynamic. And that power dynamic affects our brains, affects how we operate, that system that we're operating in. And if we're not aware as leaders, and this is really a key for those who are even the higher up you go in the chain of command, if we're not doing self-awareness, it completely affects our teams because of this power dynamic we're in, where we hold more power and really affects everybody. And so it's a responsibility piece, and the brain science backs it up, because we know we have neural networks that connect with each other. And so if we're holding power and not really attending to our self-awareness, we can miss opportunities and at worst harm others.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait for your session with MACC, and I know it's going to be the first of many in the future, but I'm really looking forward to delving into that and learning more about that. I think that is truly the key to finding, your own individual path, right? To be a skilled people leader. And maybe we don't ever actually learn it, right? Like we're always polishing, and we're always working on on
right.
continuing that path. And it doesn't feel to me like one of those things that you ever like fully, I did it, check, I'm done.
Exactly. It's because we're talking about humans, right?
Yeah, there you go.
We're never done. We're never done. We're always learning and growing.
Yeah. The other thing we're hearing so much about right now is mental health and the impact of stress in our workplace and stress in our people. It just seems like a bigger issue than ever. And it's coming up a lot, at least in our network, in the MACC network. Honestly, is everyone stressed out? And maybe that question answers itself, but is there a way that a supervisor can really beneficially address or even harness stress?
That's a great question. It definitely relates to that uncertainty piece and why so much stress. It's really important we pay attention to this, because then we can get the dreaded burnout really happens for ourselves and others. So just starting with really what we know helps calm our nervous system. And one thing we know is if we're working on that for ourselves, it also affects others in a positive way. And so just feeling our feet on the ground and engaging and breathing together and taking a time and pausing to notice what's happening. Often we get into just action mode, the more stressed we get. So we have to kind of work against ourselves to pause, reflect, just take it in for a minute and connect back to our breath and what's important.
Yeah. It definitely helps to have a supervisor that is willing to, address that, talk about it, even be vulnerable and transparent about their own stress. I think all of that just makes the workplace feel a lot more human.
Yeah, it's, in my trainings, I talk a lot about how people leaders have to hold this. We're always holding tensions, or both ands, where, we're trying to create this space that is psychologically safe, where that stress, we can relieve that stress together. We can be supportive of those folks on our team so that they're not feeling that stress. And then we're also holding this other tension of responsibility for getting the work done and for that accountability piece. And I think that's why this role is hard, because there's more that kind of both and that we're holding instead of just one easy answer. That's why it's never a check done, you're a perfect supervisor.
Yeah, right. And then the environment keeps shifting.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely something to dig into, which is why I think that the service that you provide, the deeper dive trainings, we're just scratching the surface in this conversation, but there's just so much to learn and to explore together and to learn. We're lucky that we've crossed paths with you and that you bring that lens to this work, and we just really appreciate that. We kind of started talking about this already as supervisors. Do we ever really master the ability to supervise? When I'm assuming you have all levels of folks who come to your sessions, like do entry level people, senior management, like what do people come looking for? Like what brings them to your sessions?
Yeah, it's really the range. There's people that are preparing for the role that are just coming into it newly, and then people who might have been a people leader for a long time and just looking for support around some of those more sticky issues that they might have. Often it is the both and that's showing up in those sticky issues. So I feel like you can get better at the actions of leadership. Like we're always practicing it, deeply listening and giving feedback and asking great questions. You can get better at that. And then there's never a perfection, because everyone's different and we need to be tailoring our supervision for each person that reports to us. And so there's not, there's not a ever perfection in that, but we can gain some more mastery in some of the practices of this role. Yeah.
That's good. I think that's sort of affirming and uplifting and encouraging to a certain extent. And You've shared a lot of great stuff with us today, and thank you for getting us thinking about our people leadership and developing ourselves as supervisors. And we're really looking forward to our time with you. What have we missed? What else do you want to talk about? And then also, what is next for you and your consulting organization? Give us a little sense of what's coming down the road for you.
Oh yeah, thank you. I wanted to mention on my website, if it's okay to say this, on my website, I have under Insights tab, I have a load of blogs that I've developed
to
really support these trainings. Or you can read them in 5 minutes, but they're designed to also have really practical. So they have things around employee burnout and stress and uncertainty and all the things we've just talked about and more.
Fantastic. I'll make sure we share those with our members.
Oh yeah, great. For me, I'm very excited about, I've been doing an in-depth coaching training for myself so I can offer more one-to-one leadership coaching. It's been in the methodology of presence-based coaching. And that's really exciting to me because I can, I'd love to move into just doing more of that one-on-one coaching for leaders and supporting them. So working on my credentials around getting to be a certified coach for that. So that's exciting.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, MACC members and others listening. There's light at the end of the tunnel when you reach out and find a partner in this work. And Lisa, it sounds like you've got some terrific things to offer. So thank you again for joining us today. It's been a fantastic conversation. Appreciate it and appreciate the work that you're doing with the MACC network as well. Great to have you today.
Thank you so much for this opportunity and for all the great work you do for our nonprofits. It's really important. Really appreciate that. So yeah, looking forward to more.
Thanks to Lisa, and thanks also to the sponsors of our Workforce podcast. We appreciate the support from the Ameriprise and Schultz Foundations. And listeners, we appreciate you too. Don't miss MACC's monthly podcast downloads on the Podbean platform or find them directly on MACC's website. Thank you. Have a great day and be well. Goodbye. All right.